Ijeoma was visibly angry. Kalu, was this how I left the kitchen last night? Why can't you clean up after cooking? Or do you think if I used to mess it up like this, you would have been able to come into this kitchen to cook comfortably? Please stop giving me extra work, oh. Even if you were not trained well at home, common sense should at least tell you what to do. Many years ago, in the village of Uratta, there lived a young couple named Kalu and Ijeoma. They were a newly married couple and had just relocated to Uratta because Kalu got an offer to manage a palm oil milling company in Uratta. They rented a comfortable house and lived close to another couple who were more matured than them in age and in marriage. This couple were known as the Ufombas. Mr. Ufomba was a successful businessman, while Mrs. Ufomba stayed at home to take care of the house and look after the children. Kalu and Ijeoma were living a regular life which satisfied them, and even though they had no children yet, it was not an issue. They just wanted to live in the moment and take each day as it came. Ijeoma also stayed at home while her husband went to work. She was a kind and gentle person outside, but she had a flaw in her marriage. She had a short temper and a sharp tongue. Whenever she had a discussion with her husband, she would always be defensive and quick to use some bad words. Kalu had always complained to her about it and told her to stop being disrespectful. I don't even talk to you like that, Kalu would always tell Ijeoma. However, even though Ijeoma would be remorseful and murmur an apology to him, she couldn't stop talking to him that way. It was like a medicine after death because she continued to do the same thing over and over again. On one weekend, Kalu and Ijeoma were at home. The Ufombas were also at home. Kalu was resting inside while Ijeoma came out to spread the clothes she had just washed. She was shocked when she saw Mr. Ufomba spreading clothes on the rope also. She greeted him and proceeded to spread her clothes. But as she stood there, she was fighting so hard to control herself. Are my eyes deceiving me? Mr. Ufomba is spreading clothes, and it might be possible that he even washed it too. So things like this happen. What is Mrs. Ufomba doing inside that she could not come out to wash these clothes by herself? Wonders shall never end, Ijeoma thought to herself. She finished with the clothes and went inside the house, but the moment she saw Kalu lying on the bed and scrolling through his phone casually, something ignited in her head. Immediately, she let it all out on Kalu. So you are here pressing phone. You are just relaxed on the bed while your slave does all the housework for you, right? Is it not your fellow man that is washing and spreading clothes outside? Kalu, if it is not wickedness, then tell me what it is. Since I got married to you, you have never assisted in doing any of the house chores. Kalu, you are wicked and mean. You better change, if not, this house will not contain me and you. Ijeoma poured out and went to the kitchen. Kalu was shocked and confused. What is wrong with this woman? Which man is she talking about? Ijeoma, I just hope you don't run mad one day. Oh. These your outbursts are becoming too much. The issue here is that I did not even understand one thing out of what she said. Ijeoma, you would not kill me in this house, oh. Kalu said to himself. That evening, Kalu was sitting outside the house, relaxing, when he saw Mr. Ufomba coming to the house with a big bag of what seemed like foodstuffs. Good evening, sir, Kalu greeted Mr. Ufomba, who replied him back. Suddenly, a voice sounded from behind Kalu. Welcome back, sir. Kalu turned back, only to meet his wife's meaningful gaze. Ijeoma was standing behind him, looking at him as if she had issues to settle with him. Kalo did not read much meaning to it and looked away, minding his business. When Kalu went inside the house, he was surprised to see Ijeoma standing, waiting for him with her hands on her waist, as if she was preparing for a fight. Ijeoma, what is the matter? Did anyone provoke you? Ijeoma was not in the mood for any soft talks and she burst out immediately. So Kalu, do you want to tell me that you are blind? What do you feel like most times? Just imagine, Mr. Ufomba is older than you. He has money more than you. He is even more experienced in marriage than you. But he is not proud. I'm sure you just saw him coming back from the market for his wife. Market, Kalu. Kalu, have you ever picked a broom to sweep before? You want to kill me with all the work. Is it not my fellow woman's husband that is doing all that for her? Don't I deserve to be treated well too? Ijeoma went on and on, pouring out her dissatisfaction. Kalu was shocked and felt really humiliated, hearing his wife saying all that to him. Ijeoma, I am very disappointed at you. You are comparing me to a man you barely know. Do you know what happens inside their house? Or because you saw him carrying a bag coming back from the market, you immediately assume he is the perfect husband. You need to stop all this. Mind the way you talk to me and stop comparing me to other men. Ijeoma lost it immediately. If I don't stop, what will happen? Kalo, what will happen? You need to rise up and be a man. Kalo could not bear it anymore and he left Ijeoma there. He went into the room and locked himself in to get some peace. Kalu was really worried. He was not comfortable with the way his wife was acting. Before they came to Uratta, she was not like this. Even though she had a sharp tongue, she wasn't bad like this. She had graduated from 10 to 1,000. Every day it's Mr. Ufomba this, Mr. Ufomba that. But I try to take care of her. I provide for her and I don't even frustrate her. What else does she want? Or should I stop going out and start staying at home? It's alright. I'll just have to start doing some of the house chores. Who knows? She might stop all these naggings, Kalu thought to himself. The next morning, while Ijeoma was still sleeping, Kalu went into the kitchen to prepare breakfast for her. By the time he was done, Ijeoma had woken up. She saw the food served at the dining table and was surprised to see Kalu bringing a bottle of water and smiling at her. "Did you make this?" Ijeoma asked him. Kalu nodded and they started to eat. As they were eating, Ijeoma suddenly said, I hope you did not finish all my salt." Kalu looked at her confused and asked her what she meant. "The salt is too much in this food. Did you pour all the salt in the container?" Kalu ignored her and continued eating. After eating, Ijeoma cleared the table and took the plates into the kitchen. But as she got in, she immediately shouted, "Kalu! Kalu!" Kalu rushed in, thinking something had happened to her. Ijeoma was visibly angry. "Kalu, was this how I left the kitchen last night? Why can't you clean up after cooking? Or do you think if I used to mess it up like this, you would have been able to come into this kitchen to cook comfortably? Please stop giving me extra work, oh. Even if you were not trained well at home, common sense should at least tell you what to do." Kalu could not believe his ears. "What did I just hear, Ijeoma? Did you just say I don't have home training and I don't have sense? So I decided to cook for you, and the best you could do is to insult me." Ijeoma quickly realized that she had talked too much, but it was too late as she could not take her words back. She tried to defend herself. "I did not say you don't have sense, Kalu. Please don't put words into my mouth." Kalu could not bear the humiliation and walked out on her. He went out to a bar and ordered for a bottle of beer to drink. The beer was brought to him, but he just kept staring at it on the table and was lost in thoughts. He started to think of how he had met Ijeoma, fallen in love with her, and they decided to get married. He wanted to have peace and feel valued by his wife, but Ijeoma had broken him time and time again, making him feel worthless and less of a man. As he sat there thinking of his sad reality, hot tears streamed down his cheeks. He had to quickly clean his cheeks because no one would understand why a full-grown man was crying in public like a child, but only him knew what was biting him. Kalu lost appetite for the beer and could not even drink it. He paid for it and left. He continued to wander about, just trying to while away time and avoid being in the same house with his tigress of a wife. In the evening, he returned home, praying that she would avoid him. As soon as he entered into the house, Ijeoma surfaced and greeted him sarcastically. "Are you back? Welcome." Kalo quietly went to the room and slept off. Ijeoma, however, would not stop frustrating Kalo, and she had even gotten worse to the extent that she no longer apologizes when she wronged him. Kalo would always avoid her and stick to his pace until one day he had gone to work and did not return by his usual time. Normally, he would return by 5 p.m. unfailingly, but that day was the first day he faltered. By 8 p.m., he had still not returned, and Ijeoma was already boiling in her heart. So Kalu wants to start keeping late night, right? That can never happen. He can't try that with me. I will wait here for him. He will surely return home, Ijeoma said to herself and sat in the sitting room looking at the door angrily. She soon fell asleep on the couch, and when she woke up the next morning, she quickly ran into the room to check if Kalu had returned while she was asleep. But much to her disappointment, he was not there. Ijeoma was getting really impatient at this time, and she knew that she was going to pour it hot on Kalu whenever he eventually returned. It was when Kalu had still not returned that evening that Ijeoma started to think rationally and get worried. What could have happened to him, she thought. She tried to call his number, but it was switched off. At this point, Ijeoma's heart was pounding hard. She started to think of the many possibilities that could have happened to him. Was he kidnapped? Oh God, no. Or did he have an accident? Never. Kalu, please, where are you? I just hope you are fine. Ijeoma waited all through the night, but Kalu still had not returned. The next morning, she could not bear the suspense anymore and had to go to Kalu's place of work to look for him. She met one of the workers there and asked him if her husband was at work, but the man told her that they had not seen Mr. Kalu for 2 days. Ijeoma was shocked. It was then that she knew that she had a big problem in front of her. Where would she go to look for him now? His phone was not even reachable, and he does not keep friends, so there was no one to even call to ask for his whereabouts. Ijeoma returned home and cried her eyes out, praying to God to keep her husband safe wherever he was. Ijeoma started to live like a single woman. Since she had no job or business, she had to start using her savings to take care of herself and the home. And later, she decided to start up a small business to further sustain herself. One morning, she woke up to a strange bad smell in the house. She tried to locate the source of the smell and traced it to the trash bin in the kitchen. She then realized that she had not taken it out for days, hence the bad smell. In fact, when Kalu was around, he usually took it out without her knowledge and burnt it. So she did not really know much about managing the waste. Since she was alone, she had to take it out herself and burn it. On another occasion, Ijeoma wanted to bring down her big box from the top of the wardrobe in the room. This box was very heavy, and whenever she needed to take something from it, Kalu would always help her to carry it down. Unfortunately, Kalu was not around this time, and she needed to take something from the box. She climbed a stool to be able to reach the box, but as she struggled to carry the heavy box, she lost her balance on the stool and fell down with the heavy box crashing on her head. She did not expect it, and so she could not dodge from the box falling on her. The pain on her leg and neck was too much that she started to cry. She sat on the floor crying bitterly. She was really tired and frustrated. Everything was overwhelming, and she had no one to help her. She then started to remember how Kalu would have done these little things for her, even without her asking. Since she got married to Kalu, all these things were the normal things he usually did for her, but she wasn't even aware of the importance of them. Kalu, where are you? Please, if you can hear me, if you are still alive, come back to me. Ijeoma was managing her little business, using it to fend for herself. She returned home one evening, opened the door, and heard a spark. She tiptoed inside, only to see that a wire was sparking from the central socket in the house. Ijeoma was shocked, confused, and scared. She did not know what to do about the situation, and the only thing she could think of was to go and call a neighbor to help. She ran out immediately screaming, "Mr. Ufomba! Mr. Ufomba!" Mr. Ufomba came out immediately, surprised to see Ijeoma looking frightened. She explained to him the emergency she had at home, and he quickly rushed over to her house to help her disconnect the sockets. Mr. Ufomba was curious though. "I haven't seen your husband in a long time. Did he travel?" Ijeoma looked at him sadly, trying to fight back the tears in her eyes. She nodded to him in affirmation. She was still very much frightened. Mr. Ufomba saw through her fright and immediately understood that everything was not okay. He left and went back to his house, but when he got there, he told his wife to go and talk woman to woman with Ijeoma because he sensed that something was wrong with her. Mrs. Ufomba accepted and went. She knocked on Ijeoma's door, and Ijeoma had to quickly clean her face and go to open the door. Mrs. Ufomba could see that she had been crying, and so she sat her down. "Ijeoma, come and sit down. We have been living in this compound together for over a year now, but even though we don't have a close relationship, I cannot close my eyes when I sense a problem. Apart from being neighbors, I see you as my younger sister, and I want you to confide in me. What is the matter? I noticed that your husband has not been around for a while now. Where did he go to?" Ijeoma looked frustrated. She did not even have an answer for these questions. She did not know where her husband went to. Was he alive or dead? Ijeoma tried to speak, but instead, she burst out crying. Mrs. Ufomba had to hold her and console her. Ijeoma could only say, "I don't know where he went to. I don't know where my husband is." She continued to say that until she fell asleep on Mrs. Ufomba's laps. The next morning, she woke up and saw that Mrs. Ufomba was still there. Apparently, she had slept there with Ijeoma. Ijeoma was surprised to still see her there. "I am very sorry, ma. I did not know you would still be here. Your children must have been looking for you." Mrs. Ufomba smiled and told Ijeoma to not worry, as her husband would have taken care of them. Ijeoma smiled sadly and nodded her head. Mrs. Ufomba then suggested that they went to the kitchen to make breakfast. While they were cooking, she asked Ijeoma, "Did you and your husband have a disagreement before he left?" Ijeoma thought for a while and said no. She then asked her again, Was he angry about something? Because I will be honest with you, your husband is not an irresponsible man, and I also notice he loves being at home. So I assume something must have happened for him to leave home for so long. Ijeoma tried to recollect the last memories of she and her husband, and she could only remember constantly nagging and complaining to him, expecting him to be like someone else. She opened up to Mrs. Ufomba about everything. But I just wanted him to be a better man. I admired the way your husband did things for you, and I wanted my husband to do the same for me too. I didn't mean to push him away. Mrs. Ufomba shook her head sadly. She finally understood the gravity of what drove Kalu out of his house. Ijeoma, first of all, men crave for peace, and they cannot trade that for anything. Your husband was not getting that and probably decided to go out to look for peace. Also, no man wants to share the same roof with a nagging wife. A wife who constantly brings him down with her words and actions. No man can bear that. Now, most importantly, you were comparing your husband with mine when you don't even know what is going on in my marriage. Now, that was totally wrong. Do you know what that did to him? It made him feel worthless, useless, and not valued. You made it seem as if he was not even making any effort at all. Now let me ask you, since he had not been around, how do you feel? Do you still believe he was not helpful to you when he was around? Ijeoma answered amid her tears. I was foolish to think like that. Ever since he left, I now see the so much void he had been feeling for me. Things that he did without me even asking him, but I refuse to acknowledge them. Now I have to do all of those things by myself. I am truly sorry, ma. I have learnt my lesson. I want my husband to come back to me, Ijeoma pleaded. Mrs. Ufomba looked with pity at her. You believe you have learnt your lesson, but does he know that? You see, every marriage is unique, but there is a common trait, which is that you cannot have it all. You might see a perfect couple, but only them know the problem they have. You will be surprised that your marriage enjoys something their own lacks. You need to learn to be contented and mind your marriage. Plus, the way to get something from a man is not by applying force. It is not wrong to want a change in your husband, but how do you go about it? Let me tell you something. My husband wasn't always like this. I have been married for 15 years and I have learned that if I want to bring out the king in my husband, then I have to be a queen. You need to learn to use your mouth to build up your husband and bring out the best in him, not tearing him down. Mrs. Ufomba went on and on counseling Ijeoma, who sat there looking remorseful and regretful, like a fowl drenched in a heavy rain. She begged Mrs. Ufomba to help her. She was ready to change, but she did not even know where to look for her husband. Mrs. Ufomba promised to help. I will talk to my husband and we'll see how we can help, even if it means going to the police to lay a report. Mrs. Ufomba went back home and told her husband about the whole issue. He was shocked to hear that his marriage had been causing issues in someone else's marriage. However, they had to help Ijeoma look for Kalu and bring him back home. 2 days later, Mr. and Mrs. Ufomba came to meet Ijeoma. They told her to follow them somewhere which could be useful in finding her husband. Ijeoma followed them and they all went to the next village. She was shocked, however, when they took her to a house and she saw Kalu sitting in front of the house, looking lost in thoughts. She quickly ran to meet him and knelt down in front of him, crying and begging him to forgive her. Please, my husband, I am very sorry. I know I have offended you. Please forgive me. I will amend my ways. Please forgive me. Kalu was surprised to see her. She was the least person he was expecting to see. He looked at Mr. Ufomba, wanting an explanation. Mr. Ufomba told him that his wife had already learnt her lesson. She was suffering too much, and he felt it was time for them to reconcile. Ijeoma was confused. She asked Mr. Ufomba if he knew about her husband's whereabouts, and Mr. Ufomba explained to her, "I brought him here, and I believe that was the best thing I could have done at the time. I met him one evening on my way back from my shop. He was sitting at a corner at a very lonely road, looking frustrated and hopeless. I had to approach him and inquire from him what the matter was. He would not tell me, and so I asked that we went home. But he immediately said that he would rather sleep in the bush than to go back to the house. I was shocked and confused as to why he said that. But when I saw that he was serious, I had to suggest taking him to my brother's house for him to be safe. If I had left him there, who knows what would have happened to him, because he was very vulnerable at the moment. I brought him here thinking that he would decide to return home the next day. But surprisingly, he begged to remain here and begged me to keep his whereabouts away from you if I didn't want to see him die prematurely. I had to respect his decision, even though he did not tell me what the problem was exactly. It was when my wife told me about the issue you had with him that I knew I had to bring you to him." Ijeoma was really ashamed of herself. She had caused her dirty linens to be spread outside. She thanked Mr. Ufomba for helping to keep her husband safe, and then told him to help her beg her husband. Kalu just sat there looking at Ijeoma suspiciously. He did not trust her and would rather remain in his current location, enjoying the free peace of mind that money could not buy. Mr. Ufomba had to mediate between them. He told Kalu, "I understand that your ego has been bruised and you just want to run away to be free. But you need to remember that it is the ability to overcome a challenge and still stand strong that makes a man. You can't continue running away from your problems. You need to face it like a man. And thankfully, your wife has learnt her lesson and is willing to change. So please, I beg you, go home with your wife and make your marriage work." After much persuasion and begging from his wife, Kalu decided to go back home with them. Ijeoma and Kalu reconciled, and Ijeoma became more considerate to her husband, appreciating him for any little effort he made, and also using her words to build his spirit up. She was very careful to control her tongue whenever she felt the urge to lash out in anger. Kalu, in return, became more comfortable with his wife and started to be more helpful around the house without her asking. They were both grateful to the Ufombas for being instrumental in saving their marriage, and they started to see them as a role model rather than a tool for comparison. One important lesson I want to bring out from this story is found in Proverbs 15 verses 1 to 2. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. The tongue of the wise adorns knowledge, but the mouth of the fool gushes folly. You know, we often forget that our words are powerful and capable of bringing out a certain reaction in someone. The wise person knows how to use his words rightly to get a particular result. Your words contain life and death. Your words can build or destroy. So whether it is in your marriage, your work, school, or any relationship at all, Do well to be in control of your words and use it in the right way to get the change or results you desire. Thank you for watching the story. I hope you found value in this story. Please share with us in the comment section what moral lesson you learned from this story, and also let us know which country you're watching from. Give this video a thumbs up, and if you've not subscribed to this YouTube channel, kindly subscribe for more stories. Until I bring another story your way. Bye!